There is a silent, ongoing rhythm to the world. It's a continuous cycle of creation, accumulation, and preservation that we generally just call wealth. For generations, people have tried to capture it, to tame it, and really, to build a lasting foundation for their families. But as we all know, prosperity is incredibly elusive. Today, in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into this fascinating journey. We're going to explore not just how to make a living, but how to truly master the very life cycle of wealth itself.
It's a profound question, isn't it? What is the true secret to making and keeping money? We so often assume the answer has to lie in complex financial algorithms, insider knowledge, or just incredibly lucky breaks. But if you look at history, it tells a totally different story. Real prosperity is actually built on a series of deliberate and often highly counterintuitive choices. So let's peel back all the layers of modern complication and find the timeless truths hidden underneath. To guide us on this journey, we're actually turning to a somewhat unexpected source, the 19th century wisdom of P.T. Barnum, specifically from his classic work, The Art of Money Getting. Now, I know what you're thinking. Barnum is famous for his grand spectacles and circus shows, but his insights on personal finance, they are remarkably grounded. Human behavior really hasn't changed at all over the centuries, and as you'll see, his ideas translate perfectly into modern lessons that apply to every single one of us today.
To begin building wealth, we first have to face what I like to call the grand illusion of saving. So what does true economy really mean? When we hear the word economy, most of us immediately picture penny pinching, coupon clipping, and just living a smaller, restricted life. But think about it. Why do two neighbors making the exact same income end up in entirely different financial universes a decade later? Well, the answer lies in a really widespread misunderstanding.
A lot of people believe saving means hoarding old envelopes or aggressively haggling over pennies, only to turn around and squander hundreds of dollars on some vanity purchase. Actually, scratch that. That isn't economy at all. That's literally just hoarding. True, rational saving is beautifully simple. It just means always making your income exceed your outgo. It's about happily skipping an expensive dinner out to ensure there is always a margin in your favor. It's about logical balance, not miserable daily sacrifice.
This misunderstanding naturally builds into a dangerous trap, and Barnum captures this perfectly with the story of a gentleman whose entire fortune was nearly undone by what seemed like a completely harmless luxury. As this man's wealth grew, his wife decided to purchase a beautiful, elegant new sofa. But looking back years later, the man calculated that this single innocent sofa ended up costing him $30,000. $30,000! How in the world could one piece of furniture cost an absolute fortune?
Well, it's because that single purchase spiraled completely out of control. It's like a domino effect. Once that elegant new sofa arrived, suddenly the old chairs looked terribly shabby. So they bought matching chairs. Then, obviously, new carpets were needed to match the chairs. Eventually, the entire house was deemed too old-fashioned for this fancy new furniture, forcing the man to build a brand new estate and hire a full staff. That natural human desire to cut a dash and keep up appearances, it can trigger an absolute avalanche of unexpected expenses that will swallow your income whole.
And where does this desire for appearances usually lead? Right straight into the debt trap. Debt is essentially an invisible chain. When you go into debt for things you eat, drink, or wear, you are essentially working for a dead horse. Think about that phrase for a second. You are working your hardest today to pay for something that is already consumed, gone, and forgotten. It completely robs you of your future energy and self-respect, while the interest just accumulates relentlessly, day and night.
Okay, but let's say you're smart. You avoid personal debt entirely. As you begin to prosper, a new, much more subtle danger usually emerges: endorsing a friend's loan. Now, it seems like a wonderful, generous act to put your name on a note for a trusted friend who just needs a quick financial boost, right? But beneath the surface, a major psychological trap has just been sprung.
Here is the reality. Letting friends access money too easily teaches them a very dangerous lesson, that wealth can be acquired without sacrifice, and that almost always tempts them into highly risky speculations. When that easy money is inevitably lost, they'll desperately try to recover it by asking for another loan. Ultimately, this well-intentioned favor won't just drain your fortune, it will ruin your friend's character. Money has to be earned by hard knocks, so its value is truly respected. Moving on. Once you have successfully protected your wealth from these traps, you have to actually build the engine that generates it, and this absolutely begins with finding your rightful path. Look, we are all born with completely different talents. If you take a boy who naturally loves to tinker and figure out complicated locks, and you force him to become a watchmaker when he completely hates delicate mechanisms, he's going to spend his entire life walking uphill.
Lasting success requires aligning your daily labor with your natural, innate abilities.
Yet, having the right vocation is really only half the equation. You could be the best in the world at what you do, but if you're in the wrong spot, it doesn't matter. Why is your location just as important? Imagine you are a brilliant world-class hotel manager. If you build your grand luxury hotel in a tiny village with absolutely no roads, your brilliant skills will lead straight to ruin. Barnum actually saw this happen in London. He met a highly talented showman stuck in a dingy room displaying wax figures to a public that simply did not care.
Barnum knew exactly what the problem was. The man was incredibly talented, but he was just in the wrong place. So he convinced this sharp showman to pack up and move to America. By simply relocating that exact same talented individual to a market with eager crowds and plenty of elbow room, the showman quickly amassed a massive fortune of $60,000. The talent was always there, it just desperately needed the right soil to take root.
Now, as your engine of wealth really starts humming and growing, you're going to realize you cannot run the whole shebang alone. And here, there's a profound difference between hiring hands and hiring heads. You can always hire working hands relatively cheaply, but an employee who brings a thinking brain to the table, someone whose mind thinks all over, anticipating problems and suggesting real improvements, that is an invaluable asset. That kind of mental energy fuels exponential growth, and let me tell you, it is absolutely always worth paying for.
But we need to pause for a second because there is a deeper layer to all of this. The absolute foundation, the true bedrock upon which all your worldly success is built, is your physical health. You cannot accumulate wealth, and you certainly can't enjoy it if you are perpetually unwell. Without your health, you literally have no ambition and no force to drive your ideas forward. Guarding your vitality from unnatural habits and relentless stress is, without a doubt, the most essential investment you will ever make.
So, assuming you have your health, you've found a great vocation, and you've built the right team, you must consciously avoid scattering your powers. This is a huge pitfall, especially for the visionary mind. Many brilliant people remain perpetually poor because every single new project they see looks like a guaranteed success. They always have too many irons in the fire, constantly jumping from one big idea to the next, and as a result, they never actually finish anything.
The grounded, undeniable truth is that success requires undivided attention. As the saying goes, a constant hammering on one nail will generally drive it home. When your mind is completely locked in and focused on a single objective, it naturally discovers subtle improvements and efficiencies that you would completely miss if your brain was scattered across a dozen different ventures. Deep focus is what prevents a fortune from slipping right through your fingers.
Of course, maintaining this kind of intense focus requires having a good system in place, but you have to be careful. Why is a strict system sometimes a trap? Well, Barnum loved to share this amusing little story about the famous Astor House Hotel, where rigid rules dictated the exact order of dinner. When a guest politely declined a soup and asked to move straight to the fish, the confused Irish waiter absolutely refused, insisting, "Not till ye have ate your soup." It's a funny mental image, but the lesson is serious. Systems are meant to serve human needs and facilitate work, not to blindly force-feed us.
All right, as we reach the culmination of our journey today, we must strip away all the mechanics we've discussed. If we look past the tactics of saving, hiring, and focusing, we uncover the final, overarching truth of this whole endeavor. We discover the ultimate currency, and it's one that completely outlasts all the gold, cash, and property we could ever possibly accumulate in a lifetime.
Take a moment to reflect on everything we have explored today, from the hidden danger of that $30,000 sofa to the absolute necessity of finding your proper location. When the final tally is taken at the end of a long life, what is the truest form of wealth?
Barnum provides the answer with absolute, crystal clarity, strict honesty. It lies at the very foundation of all success. To believe that you can somehow build lasting prosperity through deceit or cutting corners is the ultimate foolishness. The moment a person's lack of principle is discovered, nearly every avenue to true success is closed to them forever. Honesty isn't just some moral nice-to-have, it is the structural steel of a prosperous life.
Just look around. The world is absolutely full of rich-poor men, individuals who have hoarded vast sums of money through unfair bargains and shady dealings, yet they live in a state of total spiritual poverty, completely devoid of their neighbor's trust. Contrast them with honest individuals who maybe possess a little less financial capital, but whose absolute integrity secures them the unshakable, lifelong trust of their community. I promise you, they are richer in ways that money can never ever measure.
And so, we arrive at our final thought to leave you with.
Is your character your most valuable asset? History, human experience, and the quiet rhythm of wealth creation all point to a resounding, undeniable yes. True prosperity is never just about the balance in a bank account. It is about building a life of uncompromising integrity. Because when you master that, you haven't just learned how to make a living, you have truly mastered the art of wealth.